Today's topic is about this recurring theme that I have noticed in Hindu epics and mythologies, where the eldest son is exiled, disowned, or denied the succession rights. So here we go. Welcome to Pravyabnav. This is Pranav, and I talk about history, mythology, fiction, series, films, and occasionally food and travel on my channel. So subscribe to this channel. So here we go. Usually when you think about monarchy, what comes in mind is the king is succeeded by his eldest son, and that's the norm everywhere in the world. But in Hindu epics and mythologies, we find this very tricky. There are so many stories in which the eldest son is exiled from the kingdom or denied his succession rights, and the throne goes to their youngest son. Now you must be saying, "Hey Pranav, could be exceptions. Shouldn't be a norm. It's just an exception." But no, there are too many exceptions to ignore them. So the first story is from the Puranas, where Vain is a king, a kind of nice king, but sometimes acts weird. So this Vain king was supposed to rule the kingdom and protect his people, but he was not that interested. When many sages went to him and started pleading him for help, he insulted them. As a result, all these sages got very angry. They took a cane and they beat the hell out of him. And then they realized the king had died and now he had no successor, so the kingdom was basically kingless, and who will protect them? Then what they did was what modern sci-fi writers would call genetic engineering. Basically, they took his body and they churned his leg out like buttermilk. And then came out, no, not butter, then came out Nishad, the successor. Everybody must be happy, and the sages went like, yeah. Basically, Nishad was this dwarf hunter which the sages immediately banished out of the kingdom, saying this is the result of all the Vain's evil personalities. So they churn his hand again, yeah, like buttermilk. And then came out, no, not Powerpuff Girls, that's a different story. Then came out Prithu, and Prithu was this rightful successor to the throne, and Prithu became the king, and that is why Earth is called Prithvi, and he's also considered as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So we find that the younger son became the king, and the eldest son was banished from the kingdom. Now this could have been a way to explain why there was discrimination against this Nishad tribe, or maybe it was a social angle to explain that the Nishads were probably the elder migrating tribes to the subcontinent. I mean, who knows? The next story is obviously the very well known from the Ramayana. Rama, being the eldest son, was supposed to become the king, but he was exiled for 14 years while his younger half brother succeeds to the throne for 14 years, but still it's a very important event. In the same story, we see Kubera, who was the original ruler of Lanka, was banished from his own kingdom by his younger half brother, Ravan. Then there is similar story between Vali and Sugriv, but it can be debatable. Now let's come to the Chandravanshis. Yayati was the king of the Chandravanshis, and he handed over his kingdom to his youngest son Puru, while he cursed his eldest son Yadu that he and his descendants would never become kings. This is another example where the youngest son was the successor and the eldest son was banished. This curse could probably explain why the Pauravas were kingdoms and the Yadavas continue to have this republican kind of a structure. Now let's come to the next generations among the Pauravas. The Kurus of Hastinapur. Bhishma was the eldest son of Shantanu, but he had to step aside so that his younger half brothers would succeed to the throne. A generation later, Dhritarashtra was the eldest son, but he was denied the throne because he was blind, and the throne went to his younger brother Pandu. Even after Pandu's death, Dhritarashtra technically didn't become the real king. He was more like a caretaker, ceremonial placeholder for a king. A generation later, Yudhishthir was the eldest among the new generation, but he was denied succession, and Duryodhan was made the crown prince. Of course, Yudhishthir had to carve out his own independent kingdom in Indraprastha, but that's a different story. Even among the Yadavas, we see Krishna was made the leader rather than his elder brother Balram. But more on Yadava politics some other time. It deserves a video of its own. So let me know what you think about this repetitive motif where the eldest son is exiled or denied succession right while the youngest son becomes the leader. And let me know if I have missed anything. Till then, subscribe to Kravyab now, and I'll be back with another video on the Yadava politics. Ta-da!